Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to be exploring Maltego. Now, for those of you who do not know what Maltego is an open source threat assessment tool that was designed to demonstrate the complexity and severity of a single point of failure on a network. Alright, so it's a fantastic tool for being able to gather information from both internal and external sources, and from all of this information, you're able to build a clear picture. Alright, and we'll be looking at this really well in this video. Okay, so Maltego comes pre-installed with Kali Linux, and I just want to point something out that there is an option to buy the pro version of Maltego, which costs, I think, about roughly $300 to $400. However, you can use the community version, which is what we're going to be using. It'll work just fine. So Maltego is a very powerful tool, and it really is a fantastic information gathering tool that allows you to gather information, and it allows you the information to be displayed or aggregated to the user in a way that is understandable, rather than getting your information in forms of text. And we'll be looking at this. So what you can do is, if you're freshly installed Kali Linux, it will come on your favorites, and it'll be this logo right here with the three little circles, and if you hover over it, it's going to be called Maltego. Alternatively, you can go to the menu here and go to your information gathering section, and you can find it there as well. Alright, so once you open it up, like I've just done right here, it's going to start Maltego up, and you're going to be prompted through a setup. Now, if it's your first time running this, it'll probably take a bit longer, and if you're running this on a virtual machine, it might be a bit slow, but once it's started, it should come up to speed. Alright, so as you can see, it's starting the modules, and it's done loading the modules. Now, as I said, if you've just run the program for the first time, which I'm guessing you have, it's going to take you through a setup screen that will prompt you to create an account. You have to create an account and register the community version. Alright, so once you have registered an account, you can log in, and it will take you to this screen right here. Now, it may look a little bit overwhelming, and you just have to keep it really simple. So I'll be talking you through very basically through the taskbar or the toolbar here, more specifically because Maltego is a very advanced tool and I cannot cover everything. But we'll be looking at performing an actual scan on our target. All right. So if you look at the transform hub, these are essentially transforms, and they are like modules that give you extra functionality with Maltego. Now, by default, I would just recommend that you install the default one, which should be pre-installed, and the case file entities. Alright, as you can see, the other modules can give you additional functionality, but come with the commercial or the professional version of Maltego, rather than the community version. So again, it might be stripped of features, but you can do a lot of good information gathering with the community version. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to this icon here and just click on it and just hit new. Alright, so that'll essentially create a new project. Give it a few seconds. It usually takes a few seconds. Alright, so now it's opened up, and yeah, looks great, but you might be asking yourself, well, what's going on exactly? No need to get worried. I'm going to take you through all the basics. So at the top here, you have your toolbar, and it is sorted out in terms of view entities. We'll be looking at that a little bit more in a few seconds. We have collections, transforms, where you can look at the transform hub and the manager, which are the modules that we were talking about. Then have the machines. You can stop all machines. And there's a lot of other stuff here that is really advanced, but we're going to be looking at it from a very basic perspective, and in order to get our scan done. Alright, so on your left, you have your entity palette. Alright, this is going to contain all your entities that you have installed, and they provide different vectors of selecting a target. So for example, you can perform a scan on a domain, which is what we're going to be doing. Alright, now to your right, you have your graph. Your graph is where you'll be laying out everything and where all the information will be displayed. So let me show you how it's done. So in order for you to get started, let's say we want to perform a scan on my website. All right, for example, so my website is a domain. So I'm just going to drag the domain onto the new graph. All right, and it looks like it did. If it doesn't, just drag it again. All right, fantastic. So as you can see, you can zoom in and out with your mouse wheel, and if you right click, you can drag to adjust the view. So I'm just going to zoom out and zoom in back so you can see what's going on. Now by default, it's already selected a domain called perterva.com. There are two ways of doing this. You can double click on that and it'll give you the ability to edit that. And I'm just going to change it to my website. All right. So I'm going to hit hsexploit.com and I'm going to hit enter. All right. The other way to do it is to double click on the domain and it's going to open up and you just select the domain name. All right. You can also add notes and other information here regarding the domain, for documentation purpose, but we're not going to be doing that. So I'm just going to close that up. So you might be asking, now what? How do we get started with the actual information gathering? Well, since we have added the domain property, we can now click on it. If we click on it, or we click on it right here through the detail view, and we go to this tab right here, we have the property view. This just gives you information that we already pretty much know, which is what the domain is, which is hsexploit.com, and we've set everything there. Now we can get started with the actual scanning. So once the target is set, we can start gathering information. So to begin, we right click on the domain. Okay. And we go to the run transform. It's the run transform menu. And now we can select all of these transforms, which are essentially, simply put, scans. So we can expand this. And as you can see, there's a lot of information we can gather. So we can get DNS name. So that is database DNS information. We can get the mail server, the name servers. You can get the email addresses. You can look for other interesting stuff. For example, you can perform a lookup of phone numbers, which is very, very interesting because you can actually get phone numbers related to the domain. So again, there's a lot of options here that can really, really help you. Now, as a beginner, what I would recommend is to go with all transforms, which will essentially get all the information it possibly can get. So you want to hit on this run all here. Okay, so just hit run all and it's going to get all the information. Now, if we looked at the transform output right here, it's going to show you a log of what exactly is going on. Now, as you can see, it's gathered a lot of information. All right, and it's going to structure it in form of a chart. So we have got a lot of information here, and I'm going to be helping you through it. So as you can see, it has been able to get information like, for example, the mail servers. It has got the actual DNS servers here. It's got the support email. It's got the server mail, the mail server, pardon me. It's then got the servers, the actual servers, the domain name servers. It's got the website, which is hsexploit.com. And it's got the other servers, the FTP protocol, for example, and the mail servers, the DNS mail servers, name servers for that matter. All right, so it's gathered information and we can still gather more information. So for example, what if we wanted to get, let's see, the IP address. So what I would do is I would click on the site, or I could click on the domain here. But more interestingly, if I wanted to get the mail server IP address, I could go and right click and go to resolve to IP address and just run that. All right. And that would resolve it to an IP address. As you can see, I've got the IP address here, which is amazing because we have essentially got the IP address for the mail server. And as you can see, this is what I was talking about. Now, with most of the other information gathering tools, we were not able to get such a good visual representation of all the information that we've gathered in such an easy way. Let me explain what I'm talking about. All right, so as we've seen, when performing information gathering scans on a target, we needed to use the terminal or tools, and the information that was displayed to us was not put in a very understandable way. Now with Maltego, as you can see, it does it in a flowchart, a diagram, all right, where it sorts it out depending on the hierarchy. So for example, you have your domain, you have your servers, your name servers, the website, the IP addresses, which are sorted down below. You have the emails, and you get a great idea of how the target is designed and arranged. And from here, you can get a single point of failure, which is what the main focus of this tool is. All right. Now, furthermore, I'm not going to be going through Maltego because Maltego is a very, very advanced tool and it would require a course on its own. All right. So, you can perform a lot of transforms, for example, the email addresses, which can reveal a lot of information. And once you're done with your scanning, this will give you a fantastic representation of the threats that your target has and the vulnerabilities that you can then exploit from there. Alright, in terms of information gathering, you can see that it has got a lot of information that is very, very useful. And furthermore, it is graphically arranged in a way that is very intuitive to human beings, and it'll really help you understanding. So I would really recommend that you learn how to use Maltego. It's a relatively easy tool, but again, as I said, it has a slightly steep learning curve. But once you're very, very good at it, it becomes really, really easy and efficient in terms of an information gathering tool. Alright, so that was section 3 in a wrap, where we looked at information gathering. Now let's look at a summary of what we looked at in this section. Alright, so we started off with DNS enumeration, where we used a tool called DNS enum to gather DNS information on our target. We then moved on to getting more classic sense of information with whois information using the whois lookup tool. We then also performed some subdomain enumeration with a tool called NocPy. Alright, so after gathering subdomains and our whois information, we then moved on to finding open ports with Nmap. So we scanned our target, which was Metasploitable 2, to find what open ports we were able to get. We then moved on to using Nmap with Metasploitable 2 to perform our OS and service fingerprinting, where we learned what operating system Metasploitable 2 was running on and what services were running on the ports on Metasploitable 2. Alright, we then finally finished off with Exploring Maltego, which was a fantastic information gathering tool that allows to perform information gathering on a graphical user interface. So that is going to be section 3 in a wrap, and in the next section we'll move on to vulnerability assessment. Alright, so I'll be seeing you in the next section.